Tonight on KGW News, back to winter. After some glorious days, temperatures take a sudden dip.
But there's still sure signs of spring. We'll take you out to the ballpark for opening night. And later,
I think it's going really well.
Why Portland's mayor is defending the city's homeless response.
the future of COVID tracking. No nasal swabs needed.
You as an individual don't have to do anything.
Your news starts now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm David Mulco. After a day that felt like a blast of summer heat Thursday, we're now getting a late taste of winter. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino with your first look at the weekend. Matt, storms, snow, what else is coming?
We've got wind, we've had hail, we're talking about snow in the Coast Range. Even a few flakes may survive all the way down to the valley floor. So it is really going to be an unusual weekend for this time of the year, for, heading into mid-April, basically. In Portland right now, 47. We've got rain showers out there, but look up in the Cascades. It is snowing at Timberline, and it's been snowing for several hours. There's already been 5 inches of new snow. The winds have been gusting around 30, 35 miles an hour all evening. So it is full-on winter mode up there, just 23 degrees at Timberline. Remember, yesterday there at Timberline, 60. So a drop of, almost 40 degrees in the last 24 to 30 hours. Now I'm going to go through the modeling here for you, show what's coming our way. We're going to see showers increase in the morning tomorrow. So blustery, strong west-northwest winds. We're going to have good showers in the morning. Then it breaks up a little bit in the afternoon. We'll get some sun breaks tomorrow afternoon. Then Saturday night, we have more rain coming in. Pretty good surge of south winds with that one Saturday night and Sunday morning. And after that, it remains to be seen if we're going to get strong winds Sunday night into Monday. We've got conflicting messages on that from our guidance, but it is going to remain showery and stormy all weekend long. This is Sunday at 10 o'clock. You can see the snow in the Cascades. And you know what? With east winds like that, we're going to get the snow levels really low, down to 500 feet. If this was mid-winter, say mid-January, not mid-April, we would be talking about the potential for a major Portland snowstorm. This time of year, that's a little tough to do, but that's the situation that we're looking at here. Pretty unusual for this time of the year. So heavy snow in the Cascades, up to 3 feet over the weekend. The Coast Range will see snow and sticking snow above 1,000 feet. So that means if you're driving over the beach this weekend or coming back from the beach, you're likely to be driving through snow on those Coast Range passes. So don't let that catch you off guard, because the roads will get slippery there too. And again, that potential for strong winds Sunday night and Monday. More on that and the rest of our wild weekend weather a little bit later, guys. Back to you.
Looks downright ugly. Okay, thank you, Matt.
Now to the latest in Portland's gun violence problem. 2 deadly shootings happening in the last 24 hours.
The most recent shots, and this is significant, fired in the early afternoon right under the Burnside Bridge. That is steps from where the Portland Saturday Market will open in just a few hours. Mike Benner with the story.
An all too familiar sight in Portland, but not always in broad daylight. Crime tape blocks off a stretch of Southwest NATO near Burnside following an early afternoon shooting.
I heard a bang before. I had my headphones on, so I took out one headphone and I was like, okay, I didn't hear no screams or nothing.
Benito Zarita may not have heard any screams, but he saw a man who had been shot, and he says there was a lot of blood.
He did drop right there next to the bridge. When I seen him drop in the ground, I was like, hey, man, stay awake. Don't just lay down.
According to police, the victim was badly hurt and rushed to the hospital, where he later died. We're told one person was detained for questioning. This comes just hours after another shooting in downtown Portland. Investigators say somebody was shot and killed near Northwest 6th and Burnside late Thursday night.
What are we waiting for to get something done and to have accountability?
Diana Gladden is the general manager of Portland's Saturday Market. She's had enough of the gun violence, and boy, have we seen a lot of it. This year alone, there have been more than 400 shootings and at least 24 people killed in that gunfire.
I don't want my hands tied because the city can't do anything or the leadership can't do anything. But what can we do? Let us know what can we do.
A sentiment echoed by Benito Zarita, who for the first time experienced the terror of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I kind of feel that I could have got shot too, man.
In Portland, Mike Benner for KGW News.
We all want the pandemic to be over, but doctors will tell you COVID is not going away. As we move into this next phase of the pandemic, those tracking how prevalent the virus is in our community will rely on what gets flushed down the drain. Alma McCarty visited Corvallis to learn why testing wastewater has become one of the most low-cost and reliable ways to monitor the virus.
It's a process experts have explained before. What goes here ends up here, and some of that ends up here. Samples to be tested for traces of COVID-19.
With a single sample, we can monitor the health of an entire community, which is very powerful and very cost effective.
Tyler Radnicki, an Oregon State University professor, leads the sewer surveillance program, which started small in 2020.
Where the goal was to go into communities and estimate the prevalence of COVID-19 in a community through both door-to-door random nasal swab assays as well as wastewater surveillance.
Throughout the pandemic, data from these samples reflected the bumps and surges of the virus.
It really does ebb and flow, and you can kind of see things coming through the state in waves.
The current data shows most communities are seeing a plateau or a decrease in the amount of COVID present. About 40 communities participating in that program right now.
The wastewater treatment plants in these communities, they collect a sample over a day, they filter it, and then they mail it to us. And once we get it in the mail, we then extract the virus off of that filter. At that point, we can quantify the concentration of the virus in the wastewater, and we can also run it through our sequencing facility to determine what variants are present.
It's been 1 month since the state dropped most COVID protocols. Masks are now merely a suggestion, and the virus isn't as front and center. Radnicki says tracking COVID through wastewater is perhaps the best way to monitor moving forward.
Wastewater is extremely reliable, more reliable oftentimes than case counts as well. This type of surveillance is very passive, so you as an individual don't have to do anything. You go about and live your normal life, and you are still contributing to our samples.
That's why the Oregon Health Authority announced that the program is sticking around. OSU will monitor wastewater until 2023. The pandemic isn't over, but these small samples with even smaller molecular evidence of disease,
another sense of what the general health of your area is,
could have a big impact down the road.
Early warning for any potential future waves, that can be very important. Even if it dies down over the summer, for instance, what's going to happen by next fall.
And this data collected is very important to state and local leaders, decision makers, but you can access it yourself. There's a dashboard the same way there is for hospitalizations and case counts, for example. You can see information about a city in particular. We've selected Portland. You get a data overview about the viral concentrations of COVID-19 in the wastewater over time. You can see if they've increased, decreased, or even plateaued. You're also able to tell if there are any variants of concern. We'll have more on this dashboard up now on KGW.com.
Now let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines. Oregon State Police need your help with information on a shooting that happened in Marion County on I-5 between Wilsonville and Salem. They released photos of 2 cars they say are involved. The only other information from police is that the 2 drivers got into some kind of argument at 8:50 this morning before it happened. If you have any information, call Oregon State Police.
Portland police have tracked down more than $100,000 in stolen property, all while trying to find some missing guitars. Let's explain. In November, someone broke into a storage unit belonging to the Oregon Music Hall of Fame and took 70 signed guitars like these. Now, yesterday, investigators found one of them at a home in Northeast Portland. Along the way, they've uncovered $25,000 in stolen coolers and a stash of other stolen guitars and memorabilia.
Today, a proposed measure to redistribute $2.5 billion meant to reduce homelessness was rejected. Lobbying group People for Portland submitted the proposal. It would have required that 75% of the Metro homelessness tax be used to create or operate short-term shelters. The initiative received pushback from the coalition that crafted the homeless services tax. They argued it would do little to get people into permanent housing.
And speaking of housing, this week we saw advocates put up large shelters in the North Park blocks, and the city removed them within a couple of days. It's just one example of the friction around this issue, and it gave our Pat Doris a jumping off point to ask the mayor about whether he thinks the city is making progress when it comes to that crisis. Here's part of the conversation.
Homeless issues. Public very much fired up about that. You've, as you mentioned, had to take some emergency orders to try and streamline and centralize things. How do you think that's going?
I think it's going really well. The first emergency directive that I passed was to remove people from high crash corridors, dangerous locations where it just isn't safe to pitch a tent.
And I will say that we just went by the Powell Boulevard off-ramp from 205 where someone was killed a couple of months ago up on the shoulder there. And there's maybe one tent, but there used to be a lot more. So we have seen some progress there.
Yeah, and we'll, part of the difference is we're actually going to go back and we're going to make sure that those sites are maintained. So thanks for the insight. But it's not safe. I mean, just a few weeks ago in Salem, a number of people were killed when a car ran off the road and went right through a homeless camp. That is proof that moving people out of those high crash corridors makes sense, even though I obviously took a lot of heat for it. The second directive was also really important. That's around making sure that we can site sanctioned, managed camps quickly, as opposed to having to go through all kinds of hoops and hurdles that we typically do today. And the third was to, and probably the most important and the least talked about, was to create a war room, to create a street services coordination center where all of our city bureaus come together every day and talk about where the hot spots are and where we need to intervene and where we need to clean up, where we need to remediate, and where we need to connect people with services. And that is already in the works. That's going to be launched next week, is my understanding, and I expect that to have a huge impact, just in terms of how the city addresses homelessness issues.
And we'll be watching and asking questions. Pat's full interview with the mayor is now up on the KGW YouTube channel. Plus, catch the story every weekday here at 6.